Hey guys, welcome back to Evolve. This is episode 5. How are you, Rafa?
I'm excellent. How are you doing?
Cannot complain, as we say in England. Yeah, so today's episode is going to be about languages. There's a lot to discuss here. Rafa is, in my eyes, the language expert. So we're going to be getting a lot of information out of him, his experiences, and I guess, can I kick this off by asking you a question?
For sure.
Once and for all, Rafa, can you tell me how many languages you know?
I'll keep it simple. In terms of languages I can actually speak and communicate fluently in, it's English, French, and Spanish. But when it comes to languages that I can communicate, I guess, on a basic level with, the list is much, much longer. And I use it as an ice-breaking tool when traveling with different groups of people. I guess I can speak in, I'm in Thailand right now, so Sawadee Kap, pu Pasat Thai Dai Nit Nai Kap. If I'm in Korea, 다 한국어 조금 할 수 있어요. What else are we
showing off?
Yeah, it depends. The list goes on. We're not gonna go too deep into it, but Thai, Japanese, Korean, Chinese, Creole from Mauritius and Reunion, Urdu, Hindi, Punjabi. I've probably missed a few Italian. Yeah, the list goes on. But
so we're getting to like 2 figures.
Somewhere like that. Yeah.
2 figures. What's the word for that?
I guess a polyglot, yeah.
Polyglot?
Yeah. So.
Okay, so which languages did you learn first? And how did you come to learn so many languages?
So, in the UK, they encourage you to learn at least one language in secondary school. And I guess this hyper energy, hyperactivity that I had as a kid, studying languages was the only class where you were encouraged to speak. So, without really trying specifically to do well in languages, I was always really enthusiastic in French class, and then I took Spanish as well. And I pursued those in university. I studied French and politics for my undergraduate degree, but I did Spanish at degree level during that time as well. But it shocks a lot of people when I say most of my language learning for both of those languages was outside of the classroom. And yeah, while I did, you have to learn the foundations of grammar and those sort of things, perhaps in a classroom, or I guess that's the formal studying part of the language. But it was really outside, by immersing myself in the language environment, where my skills increased. And it went from the typical English person learning French or Spanish, who would speak like, Bonjour, je suis anglais, et j'étudie le français, by constantly immersing myself with friends, making friends who I asked to criticize me. I was able to change my French to maintenant, je sais que il faut que je pratique plus, mais mon accent est mieux. Et je sais que c'est pas parfait, mais voilà, c'est différent. And Spanish, hola, soy inglés y puedo comunicar en español. I know that there's still a lot of work to do, pero ahora estoy capaz de comunicar en español mejor que la mayoría de ingleses. So it's a confidence thing. I know that you're always learning, I guess, like you in the gym, but there are some specific strategies and tools that I can share that I think will be very useful for people who are interested in learning languages. And I'm excited to do that today.
The French speakers out there will know what Rafa just said. So I'll ask him soon what he meant, because I don't speak French. But yeah, I think that's all too common. And in the UK, we're just not encouraged to learn languages, from my experience, because we went to different schools, before we eventually met. And honestly, taking Spanish GCSE was just optional. It was like, if you want. Some people took it, messed around, and I'm sure they don't speak Spanish now. I speak Spanish better than them nowadays because I traveled to South America. So that agrees with your point, really, that the experience and the necessity of learning the language is like a powerful way to learn it.
Yeah, it goes back to, I guess, being in the British environment where we know that English is an international language. So that, I guess, makes a lot of native English speakers quite complacent. And then also in the British culture, we're a bit more reserved than let's say, Americans, who are more confident to just go and speak in the classroom and outside of the classroom. Whereas for me, I don't know what it is, but I didn't have those same inhibitions, right? I was at 15 saying, c'est possible pour moi de demander en français? I was taking the initiative to ask the questions in Spanish and French. Again, because I loved speaking so much, and it was, I guess, like the gym. I needed to use that energy. So number one thing, of course, the boring part that no one wants to actually do, That's learning the grammar. And you have to do it, but I wouldn't say you need to obsess over it like some people do. A lot of my students are from East Asia, and they focus on vocabulary and grammar. Now, these are fine for passing exams, but when we're face to face, let's say, we're speaking now and I said to you, oh, tomorrow we eat in the restaurant, is that okay? You're going to understand what I said, even though the tense was incorrect. So, just speaking and not having that fear of making mistakes puts you ahead of everyone, right? You need to constantly make mistakes in order to learn from those mistakes. And having friends or a teacher who is very critical with you and will note them down or correct you on the spot, in my opinion, is a much better way to improve your grammar. So if instead of saying, ayer habló con mi amigo, right? I would ask my friends to correct me instantly and say, oh no, it shouldn't be habló, it should be hablé, meaning I spoke with, right? So having friends who you're comfortable with basically criticizing you, that put me ahead of my classmates when I was studying French and Spanish. And then there's what I call the fun side of this, which is just asking people all the time, going out for drinks with people, going out for meals, making friends with people from other countries, and showing a genuine interest in their culture, right? So that's more than just a language. Opening your mind to fully just appreciating their language and culture, because they go hand in hand. For the English speakers out there, I'm sure you've met people from abroad who are able to communicate in English. What I mean by that, they can ask you, where is the restaurant, or what do you think of this place? And you can communicate with no problem. But let's say you're in the UK and you have no knowledge of sarcasm, irony, the way that we speak and the different dialects and accents in each region. You're going to only have surface level relationships. And they don't understand that language is also a big part of that. So instead of saying, oh, that's funny, or like, are you joking? You can say, are you having a laugh, mate? Right? People don't often take the extra time to go deeper and learn. You could go even deeper than that. Are you having a bubble? For most people, they wouldn't know what these things are. Are you pulling me leg, mate? So having that intention to learn learn a language more deeply and how it's attached to someone's culture, you're going to be able to make friends and get closer to them. I guess it all comes down to this word. Maybe we can edit this part and say it at the start, but obsession. When I mean obsession, I mean, okay, so you wake up and your first thing you see is probably your phone. Your phone should be changed into the language that you want to learn. So everything from settings and everything, that's already in, let's say, French, because that was the first language I learned. Then what do you do when you wake up? You have French radio on in the morning. And this is what we call passive learning as compared to active learning. Think of a baby. How does a baby learn a language? They're not sitting there studying, when they're 6 months, 1 year, 2 years old. Right? But the brain is like a sponge, constantly learning. So by immersing yourself and having that passive learning throughout the day, let's say you're on the tube, or that's my British English coming out, the subway or metro, right? You've always got that language in your head. Even if you're not paying attention, your brain is subconsciously paying attention to the language, to the pronunciation. Even if you only dip in and out of being actively engaged, it's so beneficial. But a lot of people don't consider it studying. So that's one. When it comes to music, right? A lot of people listen to music and say, yeah, this is really difficult to understand. And that's a great challenge. But with music, what I would say is one of my key tips that helped me, I guess, learn a lot of spoken French as opposed to passing the exam and being able to write an essay is find, your favorite music. For me, it was actually a lot of hip hop, French hip hop, that although there was a lot of slang, they speak a lot about politics and social problems. It's basically social commentary, a lot of French hip hop. Well, maybe 15 years ago. Now, I don't want to get into that, but you can find conscious hip hop or whatever sort of songs you're into and listen to the music and read the lyrics. So in French, you can search for the paroles, or in Spanish, you can search for la letra, the lyrics of the song, and read down the lyrics as the song's playing. And whenever you find something that you don't understand, look it up. Because those lyrics are often much more likely to be culturally relevant. So again, you can start learning more about people's culture and you get more immersed into that. And at the same time, it's commonly used language that most people would understand. Unless it's like some old, very traditional songs. But then again, that you're learning that, you can tell people, I learned this phrase in a song. Can you explain it? The joy people have when you show an interest into their history and culture, which is through art, movies, music, you're going to get a way more profound relationship than just studying the surface level of the language. And it also applies to, this is it, I can blow people's minds and say Netflix is studying if, again, you're taking this critical approach to learning the language, which is put the sous-titres or the subtitles on of the language you're looking for and follow that again. It's not as fun. So, I mean, there's two types. You can passively watch, and then you might not have to note down every single phrase that you don't understand. Or you can actively watch it, and every time you don't understand something, pause it, ask a friend, note it down, look it up, and in a few months you'll be shocked at how much more capable you are of communicating in real life as opposed to just passing the exams. So I would say those are so important in really mastering the language, not being afraid to make mistakes, actively not trying to make mistakes, but be so comfortable that when you speak, being corrected, right? Feedback is a horrible thing to receive at the start, but once you get addicted to that constant growth from being criticized and then learning, watch how you surpass everyone around you in terms of being able to integrate and mix with people from that particular background and that language. So yeah.
I learned Arabic when I was much younger, thanks to Ahmed. Much love to you, man. I hope you're watching this. Shukran li kul shi. Thank you for everything. So he was my original Arabic teacher, just literally my best friend from secondary school. And I would chill at his house so much, and all the Arabic movies would be on, and the subtitles were always there. And yeah, I would do exactly that, actually. I would just read the subtitles, even if they were too fast for me, and a lot of the time they were. I would just pick out like one word, and I would turn to him. And I was that annoying guy always asking questions in the middle of the movie, right? But it wasn't about the movie, it was just, Ahmed, what does this mean? I'd be like, it means this. I definitely relate to that, this whole proactive approach. I want to zoom in on something you mentioned, which is not being perfect and forming connections with people. You mentioned feedback, right? So if people out there want to learn languages, it's very important for them to get feedback. But how do you balance just connecting with someone and not the interaction not being about feedback and then having specific time to learn? I've met a bunch of people from South America who they all say they want to improve their English. And you know how it is, you become like the English teacher of the group. How do you balance that? Like, do you go around seeking to be corrected all the time? Doesn't that interfere with the interactions? What would you say?
Excellent question. And I would say that for me, I mean, someone who's just a linguist, I love to constantly change and adapt my accent. And this is part of code switching. Maybe we can do an episode on that. But I think that there's nothing wrong with wanting to change your accent. For example, sometimes we can change and, just for joking around, we can manipulate the way we speak just for fun or something like that. But not having that fear to do so is how you are able to change your accent and improve. So, but in response to the second part of the question, I would say you have to make a clear distinction between, your close friends who you're around and people you feel comfortable with. So, for example, if we were in France and you're speaking French with me, or let's say we're in Latin America, because that's where we're actually going next year, and you're speaking Spanish to me, if you make a mistake, I will correct you instantly, because you're in, this is a safe space, let's say, of savaging each other and improving. So you have to identify those friends or teachers that you're really comfortable with with doing that. And then understand that if you go into the shop, it's not the shopkeeper's job to tell you those things. And most likely, unless they're really, quite a stubborn person, they're not really going to correct you as much there. So if together we spend, half the day, we're communicating in Spanish together and there are other people, maybe I'll note it down. I don't want to embarrass my friend in front of new people, but if we're just speaking it together, or even better, right? Let's say you make some close friends in Latin America or wherever they are, they can correct you. And then when you go out and socialize, that's the fun part. So I guess to use the gym analogy, right? Speaking it with your friends is like going in the gym and doing all the hard work. And then when you go out and get to socialize using the language, it's like taking your top off on the beach. And you get to show off all the hard work you've done. Maybe you're not in perfect shape, but you still get to show and practice what you've used. And I know he knows what I mean, because if you're not following Instagram @EvolveJack, you're missing out on a lot of his insight
Go follow that.
into getting aesthetic, but also feeling healthy as well. And just to clarify, when I say with the subtitles on, right, don't get excited. I don't mean the subtitles in English, because that's cheating, right? That you may benefit a little bit from the listening skills, but research shows that the brain absorbs so much more when you're reading in the language that you want to learn and also hearing it at the same time. Like your brain is basically Sherlock Holmes in that moment, and the clues and everything's coming together that, that word that doesn't have, like, it might have silent letters or something that you weren't sure how to pronounce. Now your brain is able to see both the letters and hear the sounds. Super powerful. So yeah, just wanted to clarify that, and back to the points.
Wow, I mean, I'm so fascinated. I think we're going to have to do at least a part 2 of this, at least, because I have so many questions for you, Rafa. But of course, in the interest of not making this like The Hobbit, you know, the length of the Lord of the Rings movie. As I said before earlier in this episode, some people are at home learning languages of different countries. And then some people are more like us, who are just going to travel. The first time learning Spanish in South America this year was kind of one of the first times of just immersing myself in the language. But do people necessarily have to travel to another country to learn a language? Or do you think maybe the other side of that coin is also true, such as, why are you learning a language if you're not going to go to the country? Do you think these things are linked? Like maybe people should travel, learn the language at the same time? Is that a lot of pressure on people who have these, you know, jobs and things like that in a hometown, in an office?
Excellent question.
We're quite fortunate, you know, to be able to travel. So
yeah, I mean, there are a few things that I can boom, as we're running out of time, right, to hit. First thing, of course, you don't need to go somewhere else to learn a language, but I guess it's like if I asked you, can I get in shape without going to the gym, right? Home workouts, you can make progress, but if you really want to maximize the gains, let's say, you probably need to be in an environment with other people who know more than you do at that time. If you're like us and from a diverse country like the UK, I mean, I was in London. I did a year abroad in Reunion Island for my 3rd year of university. But I was already fluent in French before I went, because I was surrounding myself, you know, intentionally and unintentionally, with Francophone people and with Spanish speakers as well, right? So it was just this obsession in my mind that whenever I met someone who spoke French or Spanish, I would instantly change into the language, and I was very keen. But that was part of the obsession that I mentioned, right? You have to be obsessed. And by doing that, a lot of my friendship groups, you know, I spent a lot of time with a Mauritian friend. So shout out to Adesh, you know, he really helped me a lot with my French at the start. And I spent time with, you know, Clemente, part of Evolve. He's half French, half Spanish. So we have a lot of fun mixing the languages together and just enjoying it, right? You know, I spent time, el año pasado, estaba en Galicia con su familia. And it was incredible, but they were speaking Gallego, which is, it gets complicated. We'll speak about that another time. But yeah, you don't have to be there. But once I was in Reunion Island, my French was like, vroom,
wow.
You know, and we were also studying Creole out there as well. And by appreciating the local language, the people got closer to me, and I was able to really speak so much French out there, to the point where I remember certain days I was barely able to string a sentence in English because my brain was so much in French mode, let's say. So if you know, lay the groundwork, study the boring parts like the grammar and all these things, but don't bog yourself down too much. If you have the ability to do so, going to one of those countries is going to accelerate your learning so much more than just staying in your comfort zone, because it goes back to the original message of Evolve, which is get out your comfort zone. Receiving feedback is difficult. Going to a new country that you're scared of and you don't know much about, that's difficult. It's not easy, but the gains, it's the same in the gym. You can lift the lighter weights and that you're comfortable with, or sometimes you need Jack to tell you one more rep when you don't think it's possible. And it's the same with this, you know, get out of that mental block of, I can't go here, I can't speak this language, I can't do this. Change the can'ts to, I'm going to change this and I will be able to do it, and watch how your life changes.
Thank you guys for tuning in once again. Rafa, would you like to give any final comments for our viewers today? What should they do?
Là, je suis vraiment reconnaissant pour vous, ça fait plaisir. J'espère que vous allez liker, l'évolution, ça continue. Et à la prochaine, les amis, mes chers amis.
I don't speak French, but I'm pretty sure he said like and subscribe.
To be honest, I don't even know the words. Abonnez-vous, abonnez-vous, abonnez-vous à la
You're gonna
chaîne.
have to subtitle all
Yeah,
of this.
I need to go back.
The workload. You are crazy,
Yeah.
bro.
But no, it's always a pleasure. Thank you very much for your attention. Make sure if you benefit from this, please do smash the like button, subscribe, and if you have any questions about learning a language and you want to get in touch with me directly, click the link below and we can get in touch and I can help you on this journey. So, à plus, à la prochaine.
إلى اللقاء.